Rockets were down by 9 going into the fourth quarter. At one point, they got it back within 3 versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then
they
chaos.
Myers themselves.
Yeah. Sloppy basketball. A lot of behind-the-back dribbles from Jalen Green that really went nowhere or accomplished nothing. Very disorganized basketball at the end of the game. Right as they had a chance to tie it, it really kind of fell apart on them quickly, and they ended up losing 113-106 to the Timberwolves last night.
They played like crap in the second quarter. They got outscored 38-22. But in the fourth quarter, they're down 14 early, and they did rally, as you said, to make it a 1-point game. But here's what happened from 152 on. Fred VanVleet throws a bad pass. Anthony Edwards stole it and dunked. Jalen Green turned it over. Anthony Edwards stole it, then dunked. Jalen Green threw a bad pass. Anthony Edwards took it all the way, tried to dunk. Fred VanVleet wrapped his arms around him. It was a clear path foul. The Timberwolves got to shoot free throws and got the ball. It was 109-100. The game was over, and the season was over for the Rockets. And making things a little bit worse, Jalen Green did have 26 points, but he did have 2 really bad turnovers at the end, and it did feel like he was back in trying to do too much mode. And he was 2 for 11 from outside last night. Add the 5 turnovers. Add the fact that he's 2 for 16 his last 2 games from 3. And you wonder if we have now run out of magic for Jalen Green, if Jalen Green's sanity is over.
I wouldn't say Jalen Green's sanity is to the extreme of what it was is over. Right, like that.
You would say that?
Yeah, I would say that for the run of March, what we saw, like the peak of it's probably over.
Also, guys, Jalen sanity, please.
Jalen sanity.
Yeah,
It's
right there.
You're not going to say Jalen Green sanity?
Jalen sanity.
Jalen sanity.
I think it's too similar to Lynn sanity.
Yeah, that's not.
But that's what makes it.
All right, Jalen sanity is over. It is. I always thought that there was more of a middle ground, of what Jalen sanity was. And the rest of the season, Jalen Green, where it was just a total disaster. This isn't quite it either, mainly because the 3-point shooting has been so poor in the last 2 games. Like there is still a balance of where just be a 33% guy from the 3-point line.
Even that I don't like.
38%. How about that?
38 is better.
Okay. 36 to 38%.
33 is like all the hardened stuff that I hated back in the day over again.
It's like he goes from 40, 50% from 3 and from the field to now being absolutely abysmal from the field once again. He's got to find that balance, the consistency.
I look at it from a different perspective. If he's going to play the way that he did over that month, awesome. If he can do that on a semi-regular basis. But if you're saying, Joe, that there's a middle ground between where he was one of the worst starting players in the NBA, and this, and you're good with that, I'm not. I feel like if you think that he more regularly is going to be between that player and the guy who was one of the worst in the league, then I feel like, okay, there's potential here, but maybe the potential is not going to be reached in Houston.
Yeah.
And I know this past month was great, and it's awesome that he had it. I'm happy that he shook off a lot of doubters. And this is just a 2-game sample size, but it's a 2-game sample size against 2 clear playoff teams.
That's where the big picture of it is when you look back at the stretch now. As
a lot
you're
of
living,
dogs that they played.
Yeah, you're living in the moment, and we're reacting to it, and it feels it's so fun, and the Rockets are on this great stretch, but we were kind of looking past at times. You were more level-headed about it than I was, for sure. But we definitely were looking past of who they were playing, because the peaks were so high with Jalen.
And it was fun.
It was fun. And now he's playing good teams, and he's like a rocket coming back down to earth.
Yeah. Oh, good one.
Oh, nice.
Houston Rocket coming back down.
That's unintentional, but thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was always kind of the muttered part when it was like Jalen Green, 35 points on 75% shooting against the Wizards. Wow, look at this. And it is, I mean, there is some truth to it that he has been playing way better than he has before. And that is a legit improvement. But yes, I think I think I would find it rare if he, for the rest of his career, averaged like 34 points a game or whatever he averaged in March, and a lot of that was boosted by games where he would shoot 50% from three, where you're like, no one does that, so. That's probably not gonna happen, but yeah, we just what we're looking for is avoid the like absolutely like disastrous performances. And I think Kyrie Irving talked about it after the game against the Dallas-Houston game this weekend, where he said like, yeah, the thing about being a star player is like having some consistency with it, to where your bad games aren't that bad. And that's where Jalen, I feel like, is still he's still taking those steps to where his bad games aren't absolute disasters benched in the fourth quarter.
That goes back to the Zach LaVine comp that always comes up, and I've talked about it probably too much, but that's the difference between Zach LaVine and Devin Booker. Is while both players are extremely talented, and one is a superstar and one is maybe a once in 2-3 time all-star kind of player, because they're going to have a first half of the season that's incredible, but they're not going to be a guy that leads their team to the playoffs. Unlike Devin Booker is a guy who on any given night can lead your team to a victory with 40, 50 points. And you also have the confidence that he will be a good enough player to take his team to a championship at some point.
And even Devin Booker, it took him 5 years into his career and trading for Chris Paul for the Suns to do anything.
Yeah.
Devin Booker was the original, like, yeah, this guy scores a lot, but the Suns stink every year. So, that there's always a little bit of growing pains that come with these guys, because they get drafted when they're 19.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, part of the thing about them being drafted too, that with Jalen, that it's funny that they have acknowledged that his developmental program that it was so poor, and because of NIL, they've shut down the G League Ignite. The thing that Jalen Green even was playing for,
because he was
got rid of it.
He was in the like COVID G League Ignite, so he played like, I think it was like 18 games in a month, and that was like his G League season.
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, so it's Jalen Green. Not a great night. Tough night for the Rockets. Is there any part of now that we're pretty confident they're not going to make the play-in tournament, like 99%, that you view this season as a
season was a success?
Yeah, it's a whole success, right?
They're probably still going to finish above 500. like that was not how we're talking about this team.
Yeah.
In July,
I was hoping they would be competing for the play-in tournament,
and they did.
And hopefully get it, and they did. Yeah, they did. It just unfortunately it looks like it's done now. You're 3 games back at Golden State, and if you lose to Golden State, I think it might be officially over. In fact,
I think even bigger than like the losses is that basically since the like. If we could follow like on a graph, just the vibes of like, oh my God, they might actually do this. Basically, since the peak of that, the Warriors have gone on a 5-game win streak.
Yep.
Like that also, they weren't making up very much ground when they were on their 11-game win streak. that was part of the problem, is that the Warriors were still winning games, and they won again last night against Dallas.
Almost as if Draymond Green, when he said that they're not thinking about the Rockets, it's that they said, oh wait, they're right here? Okay.
Oh.
Well, let's figure it out. And they have.
Yeah, I mean, he won them the game last night with that block he had against the Mavericks. Text line here points out Dillon Brooks also awful. Yes.
He is not good at shooting. Most often, he is shooting 1 for 9. Get him off the team?
No, more often than not. Not more often than not. He's still 35% from 3 on the season.
If the Rockets are going to upgrade their team this year, the only logical place I look at their roster and say, without trading Green or Şengün, that they can upgrade is Dillon Brooks.
Well, good luck moving that contract.
I know.
1. And 2, no, I think they need somebody like that.
He plays too poorly like last night too often.
Optimally, you're going to have somebody else on the court that's taking those shots away. Now, the question of whether or not he still feels he needs to take that shot or wants to take those shots, that was an issue for him in Memphis, and why he does not play for the Memphis Grizzlies anymore. That is a question that I suppose we don't really have the answer to right now. If there is another player here, is he still going to shoot? But I think that this is a problem that takes care of itself if Şengün's healthy.
I was gonna say it's almost like this team has one extra guy who would knock him down the pecking order, the offensive pecking order, who's has a hurt foot right now. That maybe we shouldn't rush to trade this guy.
You're holding Brooks' past against him.
Yeah, I would have
That's not
buyer's
cool, man.
I would have buyer's remorse if I was Rafael Stone. I really would. I think he's done enough for the team this year, but it's a bad contract, and he is. Are you gonna bench him for Amen Thompson next year? So Amen Thompson can be your small forward. I would like you to, but are they gonna do it?
Maybe
That's what I would.
That might be a thing where when they actually had to play real deal playoff games. That's
Yeah.
like something. That's like one of the hard decisions that has to be made. Like we were talking about it with the Thunder when the Rocks played the Thunder the other day last week, where that's another team that has not actually had to make the hard decisions in the playoffs, where they can have 7 young guys, but eventually you're gonna have to find the 5 that work best together.
Yeah, and that's what's a bummer still about the way this season ended without Alperen on the court is I think the waters have been muddied a little bit about like what long term works best for the Rockets, because Alperen's just not out there. And like what does this team look like against a team like the Timberwolves with Alperen and Şengün, where you can try to? This is one of those games where I would like to slow down the pace. I don't want Anthony Edwards running up and down the court against me on a consistent basis. So that's where you miss Alpi a lot in the last 2 games. And they lost their last 2.
But I mean, against
Especially in
Oklahoma
crunch
City,
time.
though, you were running up and down the court with them. So.
Yeah, but they were missing their best player. And
Yeah.
they are the number 1 seed, right? Or no, they're back to the number 3 seed.
Yeah,
The Western Conference playoffs are going to be interesting.
the
this year.
top 3 seeds are like all a half game apart.
Yeah.
It's Denver. There's nobody else.
Yeah.
No one else matters.
Minnesota, you really think so?
Yes, Denver's what? Minnesota's going to do that against Denver? Stop.
I think I would pick the Thunder over the
Anthony
Timberwolves.
Edwards couldn't hit a shot to save his life. I mean,
Yeah.
he was only dunking last night. I love Anthony Edwards. He's fun. But
He is really fun to
The
watch.
Nuggets are going to strangle them.